Hello everyone, I'm from Crypto Australia and I'm here today to do an analysis of Bitcoin as an indicator of the crypto markets, but also as an individual cryptocurrency on its own merits and look at where possibly we might be heading. And of course, technical analysis, chart analysis, chart reading is one facet of the greater picture of Bitcoin, clearly. To be successful, you can use fundamental analysis, on-chain analysis, and other tools to help you. But certainly, my expertise is in the charts, and it's my belief that while there is manipulation, um, charts don't lie, and they do paint a clear picture if you're able to read them successfully and you use, proven methods. And the argument is often made that charting doesn't work in crypto, but I would argue that if you are using the tools and the patterns and the indicators that have the most success, then it can be quite accurate. So just going to give my take, I think it's also really helpful for me to, do one of these videos that I haven't done in a while. And I do chart Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies weekly, but just getting it down in a video to actually to look back on for myself, I think is really important to go, yep, okay, I've nailed that, or I haven't nailed that, or what didn't work here, what should I have considered. So it's good feedback as well for me, but also a good snapshot of where we are and where I think the market is. So first thing I want to look at is the retracement. So just looking here at the daily chart, I'm going to move in order 4-hour daily, weekly, monthly charts and just recap sort of where we are and where I think we're going to go. So first thing of note is we have had a 55% retracement from 65,000 US down to around 29,000. I think that, it's really interesting. 55 bars, 55 days, 55%. We're getting that numerology coming into it, if you believe in that. I do think that's very interesting just to point out. Certainly the 55% retracement has been a big one, but there may be more pain ahead. Let's have a look at that. So if we actually look on the 4-hour chart, actually look at the 4-hour chart. The 4-hour chart is telling us that we're in a constrictive, a really wound type pattern. And this pattern is what's known as a symmetrical triangle. And we've got 3 touches on the bottom, 3 touches on the top, and I'm looking for a breakout really soon. I do think it's going to go up. I do think our bottom was at 29,000, but looking ahead, because we've had those 3 touches, I was looking at the 4th of June as a breakout, possibly looking at the 5th or 6th of June now. And interesting to note that our target's up or down, because remember, a symmetrical triangle has, not equal probability. It's usually a continuation pattern. In this case, I think it's going to be a reversal pattern because we've had the very low wick down to 29. We've bounced around, and yes, we could go lower down to 24,000. But I do think that we're actually gearing up for a move up, and that makes sense in the bigger picture of where we're actually heading. So if we do head up and we do break out and we look at, let's say $41,000 to $42,000, or let's say $41,000, we break out of there and we have a strong close on the 4-hour chart, I would be looking for $43,000 as minimum target, which is also the 0.382 Fibonacci retracement. We've also got the 0.5 and the 0.618 up all the way up at $50,000. But I do think that this has a target of $50,000. Doesn't mean we have to get there. Could go higher, it could go lower. This is the range I'm looking at. And if we break out and close below about $34,000, the target would be about $24,000 at the moment. A few days ago, the target was 22,500, but since we've still been consolidating in this triangle, I do think that pattern's moved up, which means the target is going to be higher, around 24,000. But most likely scenario is a breakout in the next 2 days. We could go up or down. I do think it will go up, but that's just my opinion. Not financial advice. Not financial advice. Always use your own judgment and your intuition and your own analysis. Moving from the 4 hour to the daily chart, I do think it's really important to have a look at each time frame, no lower than a 4 hour, but really looking at the higher time frames are the most important that look at the overall picture. And we have seen that big run up to $65,000. We've had a bit of a retracement here, a bump up to 59,000, and then a final excess down to 29,000. I do think that isn't necessarily going to be the end. Because as I've noted here, we do have if you put on your fib tools, your Fibonacci retracement from the 29,000 low, we do get really key points of interest. 43,000, number one, which is previous breakout region, or 42 to 43 over here. Okay, back in February, I think it was. Which is really important. That's the, it says 9.382, but it's 0.382. We've also got the 0.5, which is at $46,000, and then the 0.618, which is at $50,000, and that's called the golden ratio, what we call in mathematics as the golden ratio. Okay, that can be applied to a number of situations in real life and in cryptocurrency and charting. We also find that that's a really quite magnetic region. So what I expect is I am expecting a bounce, and it is going to be a really big bounce, and we'll talk a little bit later about how big I think it will be. But this is the region where we could potentially have a bull trap. Okay, so while it is, looking bullish into this region, it's short-term bullish in my opinion, unless we close above 50,000. If we close above 50,000 and above 59, yeah, we'll probably go to all-time highs. Okay, 59,000 is the point of the daily lower high up here. If we close above that lower high and we make a higher high, we're clearly gonna, we could be reversing that daily downtrend. In which case, I expect those some higher highs after that. But what I'm thinking here is we get into this region. This is our bull trap region. That's what I'm calling it. And then we get some continuation down. That's just my thoughts. If we move on to the weekly chart, now this is going back to 2020. I do have to thank SL here. SL is a psychic who is on Twitter, is on other channels, and she's pointed out to some people in the community that we need to look at January 2020. What's happening here? Well, what's happening in January 2020 is we get some consolidation, really similar to what we're seeing at the moment. Okay, on the 4 hour, getting some consolidation. They pointed out to her, look, check out this date. So we checked the date out and we looked and we saw some similarities. What we also see is interesting is if we're using this as a guide to where we are now in January 2020, we saw a 40% move from, this low here, it's 7,500 up to 10,500. Okay, and then we have a 60% drop. This is our final excess. So if we're looking at these, 1, 2, 3, 4 bull traps, we could potentially also be looking at this region as a bull trap, and then a final excess before the bull market resumes. If we're looking at that on the daily chart, that is, the analysis that I showed you in regards to the 4 hour and the daily, this is really lining up as a potential bull trap. Okay, if you compare that weekly chart in 2020, and then of course the March Corona dump of 2020 as well. Okay, so that was really interesting. I have to say a big shout out to SL, because that potentially we could be looking at something very similar to that move, 40% up, 60% down, something similar along those lines, for current day, okay, June 2021. Okay, also something of note here. Now this correction that went from 14, remember the 14K correction down to 4K? We all remember that. That's a 71% drop, and it took 266 days. Now, if we compare that to current chart, current day, if we take 71% down and we take 266 days, that would be January 3rd, 2022, and possible price of around 18,000. I don't think it's going to take that long. My gut feeling on it is that we've had that explosive move up, and we're probably going to get an explosive pullback. Okay, so I don't necessarily compare time frames here. I'm more looking at the correction, and sort of where that took us and how far down it took us to then propel us up. And that's what I'm looking at here. I'm not necessarily looking at time frame, although you can use that as a marker and go, okay, how long did it take us to correct and move up? But I'm looking for the next month or two for that correction to play out. And I'm not going to give a specific date, but I do think June, July, August could potentially, because we're still in this correction, okay? And if we do look at the weekly chart in Elliott waveform, typically after you have a run up, you have an ABC correction. And we've actually had 5 waves up from our 3K bottom. We've had 5 big waves up, and I'll talk about that in a moment. And we've got on our 4th wave up, our ABC correction, and the ABC correction could be potentially a bull trap in that $43,000 to $50,000 area, and continuation. Now, continuation could take us, the target that I showed you earlier on the 4-hour chart, the 24,000. I'm actually going to be looking for that to hit roughly 18,000 or the low 20s. And the reason for that is we're looking at a similar move here from 2020, a 72 or 71 to 72% correction, and that 71% correction would take us to about $18,000. It's possible, okay? It is possible. So we need to be prepared for that, and it really is important, in my opinion, that you make a plan and you go, okay, if this happens, what am I going to do? What are my next steps and my action going to be? And I think educating yourself and understanding about where Bitcoin, and at the end of the day, other cryptocurrencies are following Bitcoin. We want them to be, decoupling, and strengthening their own fundamentals and analysis in that regard. But we do know that most cryptocurrencies, most of the top 20 to top 50, top 100, do follow, generally speaking, the trend of Bitcoin in large corrections and large uptrends. We'd have to be looking at the Bitcoin dominance chart and the altcoin chart, market cap chart, to actually compare that and look at accuracy there. But generally speaking, we're looking at a whole market move here. For a 71% correction, the whole market is going to move with Bitcoin. That is the reality. Okay, so it's a good buying opportunity down here, and it's a good buying opportunity down there. So if you picked up something, Bitcoin or others, we're going to be, if we're looking at other cryptos, we're going to be looking at very similar charts. So I think that that's, what I'm looking at as a possibility. Okay, if we're looking at the monthly chart is really interesting, okay, because we actually have, and I'm going to move myself over here. We actually have it's all confluence here. So we're looking at a move up. That's what I'm expecting after a week down. We don't have to. We can break down from here. And if we do break down the a key moving average here, I think it's a 200 moving average. I'll have to check that in a second. But a monthly moving average is sitting at about $26,000 potential low there. But also, if we do get that bull trap, potentially we could correct further. 18,000 was what I was looking for, but it could get as low as 10 to 13,000. This is where the 50 monthly moving average is, and it has been in the past key support for Bitcoin. Okay, so if we do get that low, it's going to be pretty brutal for altcoins and the market, but it will be a really good buying opportunity. And at that point, the trend may have reversed, and we may be in a monthly and weekly downtrend, but it is possible. And what I'm seeing on the charts here is a potential bull trap and further correction. If we get that, we're looking at a range of between 10 all the way up to $25,000 as a low. Okay, and if we do get a move up, I'm looking at about September for August, September for a double top, a little pullback, and then explosion up 70, 80, 90,000, $100,000. I do think that that will be the final leg of this cycle. I know that others have said 200, 250,000 as a top. It's possible, but this is the conservative look at the bull run. Given the explosive moves we've had, make it more likely for this cycle to be finishing up. Okay, and yeah, at this point we will have had, this is our wave 4 pullback, and wave 5 would be up here. Okay, so this is what I'm looking at as the top. Doesn't mean it will be, okay, because we have to take it one step at a time. The step that we're looking at next is a move up, possibly into the 40s, possibly low 50s, but I think further correction. Look at this monthly candle. This is a bearish engulfing candle. We've had a clear top. Okay, we've had the bearish engulfing candle, and now we've got an inside bar, and that inside bar really has to close below $59,000. It only has to close below $59,000 for me to go, yep, okay, further continuation down, because that's an inside bar. An inside bar gives strength to the previous engulfing candle. I do think right now we are looking at some consolidation, a move up, and then a further correction before we continue the bull run. That's my opinion, but I could be wrong. So I'll do another update. I'll look at the 4-hour, the daily, the weekly, the monthly chart. I'll do another update next month, and we'll see where we are. I do think by the end of the month we will have made that next move up. Okay, and possibly even started the pullback. So we'll have to look at that. In the meantime, I do think if you look at the fear and greed index, this is one tool. You can use many others, but the fear and greed index is still in extreme fear. That indicates a potential reversal of trend on the charts. Okay, when we're in extreme territory, and currently we've pulled back. So I do think that we're going to go higher. Once we go higher, that'll be an extreme greed again. Great time to trap the retail investors. In which case we could see that further continuation down. Okay, so that's what I'm looking at, and in the short term, very short term, 40s, 50s maybe. Could be wrong, could head down to the 20s, but either way we're contracting here, and we need to see what the outcome is of this triangle. Then go to the daily, we zoom out, we look at the potential of a bull trap. If we get that bull trap, we look at past moves from 2019 and 2020, even 2013. There's some similarities there if we go to the weekly chart. And then we're looking at a 71% correction, possibly an ABC correction, and then continuation in our bull market. Let's see what happens, and I'll keep you updated. Thanks for listening.